Are you looking for that mind-blowing treat to impress your friends with? This is it right here. This is a chili relleno made with an ancho, stuffed with caramelized plantain, topped with a beautiful tequila cream, laden over with all kinds of beautiful little grape tomatoes, sliced avocado, and a bit of cilantro. And this guy, give it a shot. You're gonna love it. Now, if you're watching this, then you are viewing the cook-along version of my recipe here. Now, there's two ways of viewing this. If you're not looking for a tutorial, then you might want to watch the short version, and there's a link here for that, okay? So check that out if you're just wanting to see a regular cooking show. I do all of my recipes two ways. One's a tutorial, one's just a show. Now, let's get on to cooking. Well, hello, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. Hey, on this episode of Texas Cooking Today, we're gonna make an absolutely fantastic dish. This thing, it's a chili relleno, but not like any chili relleno you've ever had. We're gonna use a dried chili, an ancho, and I'm gonna use some plantains, and we're gonna cook them up. When plantains are cooked just right, they become remarkably sweet. And the flavors that develop when you caramelize them just the right way is mind-blowing. We're gonna put with that a special tequila cream. And this is gonna be the most memorable chili relleno that you've ever created in your entire life. So I'll tell you what, come over this way. Let me show you these fantastic ingredients that we have, and I'm gonna show you the best tasting chili relleno that you never thought about having. Come on over. Now let's get on to what we're going to be using to make this fantastic dish. One of the items that we're going to be using, and it's one of our prime ingredients here, this is called an ancho. Now an ancho chili, a lot of people think a green bright chili like this is an ancho. Okay, that's not an ancho, that's a poblano. This is an ancho. Now actually they're the same chili. If you take a poblano and give him time to turn red and dry, he then eventually becomes this guy right here, the ancho. So we're going to take this dried chili and we're going to soak it in boiling water, and we're going to cook it that way, and it's not going to take very long. It'll soften up, and at that point it's ready to use. Now our plantain, we're going to be slicing it up. We're going to get it into some hot oil, and we're going to cook it until it's golden brown on the outside, and it's going to be mind-blowing. All right, now back here we have three simple ingredients. I've got some tequila. Now this will also work with rum, or if you want bourbon, any of it will work great, okay? I've got a couple of tablespoons of sugar here, and I've got about 1/3 of a cup of cream right here. And if you want a little more cream or whatever, that's fine, but you'll be surprised how much this expands when we whip it. And if you're thinking, oh, well, I don't want liquor in mine, that's fine. You know, you can use like vanilla or any other kind of flavor like that. Hazelnut would be wonderful. But remember, if you're using extracts have alcohol in them just like liquor does, okay? So just remember that. If you want vanilla without the liquor or the alcohol in it, then just go ahead and use a vanilla bean and strip out the seeds off of the inside of the bean, okay? Now let's move right on to making this most magnificent tasting dish. Okay, if you're going to be doing this, let's get started by heating a pot of water. You're going to want, about 3, maybe 4 inches of water up to a nice boil, and that's when we're going to cook up our anchos. Now we have to do this to soften them and to make them edible. This is delicious. Let's go ahead and prepare our plantain to be cooked. First thing I want to mention about opening up a plantain is while they look like a banana, they don't peel quite as easily as a banana does. So what I want to do is I just go ahead and cut that outer part off, and a lot of times I like to make a slit down the side. Grab a little bit smaller knife. I want to just cut through that flesh. Now, a lot of times the skin will want to stick to your flesh on the inside, so you just kind of got to gently work it away from it. There we go. See what I mean by it can be very difficult, especially right up there. So as you can see, it's really sticking in this one area, and you can go ahead and cut that off. Now, sometimes the banana or the plantain can be still a little bit green, and on this end I feel that it's really firm and still a bit green, so I'm going to remove that part. Even though it looked like super ripe, and that just happens sometimes, don't sweat it. Now, on this, I just want to cut, and the first one's going to be kind of wedge shaped, and that's not going to hurt anything. But I just want some nice slices that are going to be right in the neighborhood of about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. Now remember, when you're slicing, choke up on the knife and pinch the blade. Get those fingers up close there so you have better roll control on that knife. On your fingers, make sure they're curled under so you never catch the tips of them. Always curled under. And keep the thumb behind, for goodness sake. I have to admit, this is truly one of my little decadent pleasures. You know, we all need our vices, and this is one of mine. This fabulous dish. Now, if you'll notice, it looks very similar to banana on the inside, a little more seedy looking in the middle, and it has a slightly more amber color to it. That's very normal, and that will increase as we cook it. But as I mentioned to you before, you probably don't want to taste it in this state. If you do, just remember, you were forewarned. Now, the next thing that we're going to want to do is get ourselves a pan heating up. So, put yourself a good sized skillet, about a medium, maybe 12-inch skillet on the stove. Set it over a medium-high heat, and we're going to get it hot and ready to cook up those plantains. Now, we're also going to be needing a little bit of oil and some salt. You do not want much salt for this. You're only going to want to gently sprinkle a few grains onto it. For the oil, I'm going to recommend that you use just an average cooking oil, vegetable, canola, peanut oil. I will be using peanut oil because I love the flavor of it, and it does well for high temperatures. So, our pan heats up. When it gets good and hot, I'm going to show you a test for how to know if your pan is hot enough to get good searing, and a good temperature like that is important to releasing whatever that you put in there. So make sure that when you're heating your pan up that you get it hot enough first. Otherwise, if you put food in a pan and then heat it, that food's going to stick. And that's part of the problem about folks using non-stick pans. They don't understand that steel works just as good. You simply need to heat it. I'm going to put some water in the pan. The water begins to sizzle just a little bit. This pan is far, far from being hot enough to produce the results that we need. So we continue to heat it. Now we see that it sizzles off quickly. That means the pan is not hot enough. If it was hot enough, that water would just dance around in there. And what happens when it gets hot enough is it forms this vapor barrier between the water droplet and the pan. And that vapor barrier prevents that droplet from just sizzling off. So when it's hot enough to allow water to dance in it, then it's hot enough to give you a good sear. It should now be hot enough. Looky there. See how it just kind of dances around in there? It's hot enough. Now make sure that you give it just a moment so that there's no residual water in there before you put oil in it. If you go ahead and pour oil in it at this temperature and it meets water, then it's going to sputter and pop all over you. Coat your pan lightly with oil, and let's get those plantains in there. Come to Papa. Oh yeah. Now, these are going to need to just sit here and cook, and you leave them to cook on one side to begin with until you get a good caramely brown coating on it. Right now, in the beginning stages of our cooking, let's take a very small pinch of salt and very gently just sprinkle a few grains down in this pan. I'll be putting in here less than 1/8 of a teaspoon, probably closer to 1/16 of a teaspoon. Like I said, just a few grains. It takes very little with plantain. Salt goes a long, long way with plantain. See, if you look at it, it's starting to brown. Give it time. Now, while we're cooking our plantain, let's go ahead and turn our attention to what we need to do to make that beautiful whipped topping. Okay guys, let's go ahead and get our whipped topping made. Now I'm going to take my cream, we're going to place it right down here into this bowl. Absolutely good. And I'm going to use about 1 tablespoon of that sugar. I don't need a lot of it. And right at the moment, I'm not going to put any of the flavorant in there. I don't want that alcohol hitting it too soon, otherwise it can cause it to curdle or break, and that's just not cool, okay? So, and also if you use too much, you're going to run into that problem. So, we're going to give this a little bit of a time at a lower speed, and this will allow it to go ahead and get the sugar mixed in really well as to begin thickening that cream so that when I turn it on high, it doesn't splatter everywhere. If I turn it on high now, it'll come right out of this bowl and go all over the place. So let's just give that time. If you don't have a mixer, you're going to need a whisk. Just, you know, your basic, average, everyday whisk, something like this, and get it in a bowl and just go at it, hard and strong, side to side. Okay? Now, time. Well, we have the mixer whirring in the background. Let's take a look at these. Aha! Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Doesn't get better. We'll cook the other side just the same exact way. Some of these are going to give me hell. Now, give it time to continue cooking. Medium heat is going to make that really, really good. Let's check that whipped topping. Okay, now, if you'll notice, our cream is packed up on the side of the bowl, and that means it's gotten nice and stiff. Look at that. That's just what we're wanting. That nice stiff condition, just like that. You don't want to go too far with that. If you do, then it's going to taint it, okay? We're going to put this in just a little bit right before we work it in to our, or you put it up on top of our chili relleno. So let's get back here and heat up those anchos. Before we go ahead and cook up our ancho, you want to get yourself a large bowl with some cold water in it, and that's what we have here. I'm going to set this right over on the stove. That way, as the anchos are finished cooking, they will be placed right in that to stop the cooking and to cool them down so they can be handled. Now I have prepared a plate to place my ancho, to place my relleno on. Now this is a vegetarian dish, so I decided, what the heck, let's just go ahead and celebrate it in pure vegetarian style. And we have here some avocado, and I have some grape tomato sliced, cilantro around the sides, and we're going to put that big beautiful ancho right here next to it and top it with that, that whipped topping. This is so delicious. Wait till you try it. Now, we have our plantain cooked up. It's nice and warm. It doesn't have to be hot for this dish. You can do it hot or cold after it's cooked. Either way, it's delicious. Let's go ahead, and I want to take 2 of my anchos and place them right down in there. Okay, and this is only going to take a few minutes, so you want to watch it closely and just let them rehydrate gently. Now our anchos have gotten soft, so what I want to do is to take these little gems very gently, take them out of the hot water, put them in the cold. Remember, they can tear quite easily at this state, because once they soften up, that's it. Now what I need to do is open that guy up, clean the seeds out, and get it ready for plating. So what I want to do here, I want to lift this up, gently let the excess water run out of it. Now I pinched it right here on the side to allow water to go into it. That was done quite on purpose. It was to hydrate the inner flesh a little better. Now I'll tell you what, let's take a look right over here at our cutting board. Yeah. What I want to do is on the same side where I made that break, I'm just going to slice it straight down, just like this. I see it's starting to tear a little bit. I can work with that. So all it has to do is just open up and hold my plantain for me, okay? Now let's give it a rinse very gently into that cold water. Open them up. Very gently rinse out any seeds. There we go. Now, looks a bit rough. However, in just a little bit, it's going to fit right in. Back on the board. Now let's get on to preparing this guy. First thing I need to do is dry him out a little bit. Very gently. Now I'm going to leave it right there on that paper towel and begin filling it. Now we have the plantain all cooked up, soft and sweet. You just want to take it and gently tuck him right up in here, just like so. Fried banana, basically, inside of an ancho. And here we go with some true south of the border cooking. Good stuff. Now we're going to take this nicely filled ancho, put him on his plate, center him well. There we go. My cameraman was working slow today. Now from there, I want to decorate this just slightly more, not a whole lot. I want to use some more of these grape tomatoes. I'm going to have them. 1, 2. Oh, I think we'll use that one. Yeah. The plate needs to look festive, and we have one left over. Now we need to finish up that cream. Now if you remember, we had just a little bit of liquor there, something like this, and we had our cream. And we need to go ahead and get those two combined. I do not want to use but just the tiniest amount, because I have a small amount of cream here. So I only need maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon at the most. And remember, you can use bourbon, tequila, rum. Here's something tasty. There's a rum, comes in a white bottle. I'm not going to say names, but it's coconut flavored rum, and it's delicious, and it works wonders in a topping like this. Now, let's take that beautiful pillowy topping, and I'm going to set it right up on top. All of that goodness. I don't want to cover all of it. I just want to make it as clear as can be. It's a beautiful topping, like snow on the peak of a mountain. And there it is. Now that's not your typical chili relleno, folks. Enjoy. That just isn't that much work, okay? And we really dressed it up pretty too, throwing on all that extra goodie on there. So now, not only do we have a beautiful, humble kind of chili relleno, but we have a very special and beautiful dish that it sets on, okay? So what we have here is our chili relleno. That's a little bit of a departure from what you're used to. Wait till you try this. Get some of that. I want to get some of the chili and some of that cream, because it all works together. And believe me, please believe me when I say it really does work together. Oh my gosh. This explosion of flavor from this thing just whacks you, hits you hard. The sweetness of the plantain, and the sweetness of that cream, and the smoothness of the cream. Absolutely delicious. This is a delicious dish that anybody should try. You don't have to be a vegetarian. It's delicious. Thank you. Thank you so very much for watching this episode of Texas Cooking Today. Thank you to my subscribers. You folks are wonderful. And if you haven't subscribed, well, good heavens, what are you waiting for? There is a lot of good recipes coming and some techniques that you never thought would be happening. You folks have a good day. Goodbye. Hey folks, thanks for watching Texas Cooking Today. And also, if you would, please subscribe, hit like, and if you would, put me in your favorites. And thank you.